With curved displays starting to pick up a little bit of steam, LG is also at the forefront with its own version of the curve. However, it doesn't just bend, it also bends the rules a little bit. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the unboxing of the LG G Flex. It's a unique looking box that definitely is a little bit eye-catching and pretty much alludes to what we hope would be a very nice, stylish, and pretty good looking device. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the LG G Flex right here. So there is the LG G Flex. Now, this, for all intents and purposes, does feel like a very large phone, and since its curve goes from top to bottom, having it in your hand feels pretty normal. It just feels like a larger phone. However, your index finger that comes up to the top of the phone does curve in a little bit. There's no discomfort at all. This is by far not a uncomfortable phone to have in your hand, at least by my first impression, and it sits pretty snugly. A SIM tray tool that is in the shape of a G, so that's nice and stylish. And of course, the micro USB charging cable. So we'll put those right over there, and of course, an always welcome addition of earbuds, in this case LG's own brand of Quad Beat 2 premium earphones. Alright, so quite obviously you did not see that there was a battery inside of the package, and that's because this is a unibody design that takes on that top to bottom curve. It makes for a pretty thin device. It's definitely not the thinnest one out there, but it is still noticeable, and like I said before, it fits pretty snugly in the hand. And this is the back panel of the LG G Flex that's supposed to be self-healing. That's something we're going to take a look at throughout our coverage of the LG G Flex and see how the scratches that could be given onto the back of this device seem to disappear after a while. And of course, you have the button layout on the back, which makes perfect sense, especially considering that there is a bit of a curve and your index finger will pretty naturally just rest right on there to provide support. After that, pretty much you have the same type of experience that you would have on, say, the LG G2, only this phone is, of course, bigger. So another thing that the phone definitely has is a little bit of weight. And the reason why I mention that right now is because after typing in my Wi-Fi password, I noticed that, like I said before, the keyboard being around this area allows for rocking back and forth to be at not just a minimum, but almost completely eliminated. It's only when you are down here on the bottom or at the top that when you press down pretty hard, you start to have a rocking motion. If big screens are going to be the trend, like 6-inch screen devices, then I also realized that these curves provide a little bit of an interesting perspective. On the Galaxy Round by Samsung, the left to right curve, I realized that even though that curve was there and the screen was very large, with that curve it allowed for slightly easier maneuvering, because since the curve goes upward a little bit, it doesn't take as much for your thumb to reach over to the other side of the screen. On the G Flex, on the other hand, you have a top to bottom curve, and it actually has the same function. Since the phone is in your hand, and when you go to reach for the top, let's say for the notification drop down, a little bit of quite a bit of adjustment with your hand is possible, but I find it just feels easier because the tilt of the actual device due to that curve allows you to reach the top a little bit easier. So now I'm starting to realize kind of what the curve actually means for these particular devices. And in the case of the LG G Flex, it works just as well. And then of course there is that feature of the LG G Flex that it is able to become completely flat. It's something that when you test it out for yourself, if you ever do, it's something that kind of scares you because you're not used to, at least in my case, putting an elbow down on your phone, like an elbow drop, just to make it flat and to see if it will bounce right back. Luckily though, one thing you do notice when you try to flatten the phone yourself is that it takes quite a bit of force. So when it bounces right back, it makes pretty much perfect sense that the shape is still retained and that its malleability, while it does take a lot of force, is something that really speaks to this phone's build quality. Overall, though, the phone does fit quite well in my hand, and despite there being a little bit more weight to it, it doesn't really hinder from the maneuvering at all. This is, after all, a very large screen, so you just have to kind of assume that you're going to use two hands on it anyway. Never really presume that you're going to just have one-handed usage on here as easily as anything smaller than it. But that being said, the glossy plastic all around, despite being fingerprint prone, does provide this thin profile with its subtle curve, a very, very nice form factor. It's just a very nice looking phone. And with that black slate design up front that now has a bend to it, this entire phone actually is quite the looker. So if we're going to be seeing curved displays on much larger devices, if they all look this good, well, I think we're in for a pretty good time. So that was your look at the LG G Flex. With its curve from top to bottom, it may feel like a pretty unique phone, but as you have it in your hands for a little bit longer, it begins to sort of make more sense. And with its flexibility, literally, the LG G Flex does have a nice build quality that makes it feel very nice, premium, and sturdy in the hand. It's quite nice. Stay tuned to Android Authority for all of our continuing coverage on this curved phone. And don't forget to drop likes on our videos, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and to follow us on social media. You can follow me as well at the two places that you can see right down below with those two handles. Keep it tuned to this channel because we are your source for all things Android.